So there's a quote I love to use, and it says, "You deserve to be a man's priority, not just his convenience." And I'm sure many of you would agree, if not all of you, right? And that's what you desire, someone who's going to prioritize you, prioritize the relationship, right? And you want to know that you are very important to them, that they value you and hold you in high regard. And so today's video is to help you have a better understanding of when you see certain things from a man that lets you know that you are someone that is very important to him, that you are a priority to him. Okay. Now, I have to say this before we begin. I know a lot of y'all here have a lot of bad stories, right? I know a lot of you have been through a lot of bad situations and relationships. And the internet has magnified a lot of negativity, but I really want to stress that there are a lot of good, genuine men out there, a lot of men who are looking for love or desire love. I know that some of y'all are like, where they at? Well, I don't see them ever. Like, I get you, I understand, but they are there. They do exist at a greater level than you would think. Right? I get approached and stopped by guys all the time who recognize me, who they want healthy relationships. And so do know that these things do exist, that you can receive them. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. It can take a time before you cross paths with that type of individual, right? But you have to make sure you're staying on the path that you need to be on to receive the things that are best for you. Okay? But with that said, let me help you with the signs that will let you know you are very important to this man. And one of those first things that you can identify is when he encourages you to open up and express yourself. Now, I want to highlight the fact that I think there's a lot of women nowadays who have become more hesitant in opening up, has become more hesitant in being expressive uh, for various reasons. Some feel like being very transparent and expressive can be used against them. Like, men will take this information and use it to play them and all these things. Others do, you know, it's scary to be that vulnerable, right? So they struggle with opening up. Some may feel like what they have to say and how they feel will not be respected by this man, and that may be due to the men before him, right? And I have to mention even their own fathers who did not give them that, who did not give them that experience of a man respecting and honoring their feelings and hearing them out. And so for all these reasons, many women are not expressing themselves the way that they should or the way that would be best for them. But understand that men who, again, hold you in high regard, men who view you as someone very important to them and that they value, they want you to be able to talk to them. They want you to be able to open up. They want you to express yourself, not just for the sake of you getting things off your chest, but also for the sake of them being able to understand you better and for them to show you that they're willing to be there for you. And at the end of the day, like, there's a lot of times where I've had men say to me who were in a relationship or dating a woman, say like, I just, if she would just tell me what she needs, I do it. Like, they did not have a problem with trying to fulfill that woman's desires and make the necessary corrections and all these different things. They just didn't know what the problem was. They didn't know how to navigate the situation. And sometimes this may not be you, but some women feel like, well, why should I have to tell you? Why can't you figure this out? Or why don't you know already? And unfortunately, that's not a healthy approach to take, right? But we're not going to get too deep into the unhealthiness of it. Let's just focus on the fact that yes, the man who views you as very important to him, he wants you to talk. He wants you to open up. Now, let me just give this caveat, right? It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And an invitation to open up and express yourself is not an invitation to attack, dismiss, devalue, or put down. And sometimes though you may be bothered about something, right? Though you may feel a certain kind of way about something, You have to be careful with how you react or how you express yourself, because you may cross a line that then causes him to not want to engage like that with you. Not because he doesn't care about you, but he's scarred from the last conversation where you came at him all crazy. And that does happen. That does happen. Or where you jumped to conclusions. So that's another thing. It's like, okay, I've seen many situations where the woman would consistently misinterpret and jump to conclusions, negative conclusions about what a man did, said, twisting the words, all this kind of stuff. And all of this was really essentially PTSD. It was all things that she was still carrying from previous experiences with men. And it was causing all kinds of problems, to where it got to a point where it's like the guy was saying, I love her, I want to be with her, but man, it's like every time I say how I feel or we try to discuss things, she just takes it and turns my words into something else. So now he kind of shuts down. But again, it's not because he doesn't care, it's because of how things went. So be mindful of that. Be mindful that, yes, when you express yourself, you do so in a calm and loving manner. If you are in a moment where you feel like you're not going to handle things well, which is understandable, all right, use a letter. You type it out, write it out. That will allow you to decompress, but also be mindful of your words and all these things. And you guys can discuss it afterwards. All of these are helpful tools to help you with that. But the key is making sure healthy communication is established, and that you are dealing with a man who is not just encouraging you to talk, but willing to listen and hear you out. All right, so let's get to the next one. Another great sign, or something that a man will do that shows you are very important to him, is he is willing to make adjustments for you after you've expressed your concerns. All right. So I always say one of the best ways to evaluate how serious a man is, how genuine he is, how much he likes you, is not based off of what he does on his own. The bigger key is what he does when you express your feelings and the corrections that he makes. So essentially, let me give an example that can be very common. Uh, though I don't hear this as much as I used to get a lot of women telling me they hated how much men were texting nowadays. Now, you got some women who love texting, so this may not apply to you, but there were women who it was a big problem. And many would just cut off the man if they felt like he texts too much and wasn't making enough effort to call on the phone. And I've said it once, and I'll say it till my face turns blue. It's like, you shouldn't do that, because one, we have to understand we live in a time where texting has become very common. It is a mode of communication that we use every single day. And unfortunately, we're living at a time where he may have dated multiple women who love texting and prefer texting, right? And I'll be honest, some people I feel like text because they're still trying to fill each other out, and it might be easier that way. And sometimes it is hiding behind it because there's a different issue. True, but all of that can be solved or exposed through expressing your concern or your issue with it. Now, once you say, hey, listen, I'm cool with texting every now and then, but I really value phone conversations, and that's more important to me. And I feel like if we're going to get to know each other, we need to have more talks on the phone, right? And I would appreciate more calls than texts. All right, he hears that. Now, if he goes ahead and makes the adjustments, which in many cases he will, everything's good. And he's showing you that he respects how you feel. You know what I'm saying? He wants to show you that he's willing to, whether it be a compromise or even just embracing how you want to do things. And in some cases, he may have preferred that too. But again, there's been situations where he may have called some other girls and they felt like he was calling too much. It's like so many people go through so many different things and unfortunately carry it with them, don't properly release it. And that leads to a lot of misunderstandings going forward with other people. Okay. Regardless, it is in the expression of the concern and then seeing how he handles it that says so much. So The man who views you as very important to him, he wants to, whether it be making compromise or adjust, he's going to do that. Now, that doesn't mean that the minute he does not adjust to what you want, that means you're not important to him. No, because there are going to be certain things that may not be adjustable or that he may feel strongly about, right? I do think, I think in most cases there's going to be there'll be a place to find compromise, right? But there might be certain things that it's like, yo, listen, I care about you. I like you. I'm very interested, whatever the case may be. But I draw the line here. Like, this is something that's very important to me, or this is one of my principles. I'm not moving from that. And when we come across those scenarios, then it becomes a matter of, okay, are you genuinely okay with where he's drawing the line? Right? Again, it's not it doesn't equate to, oh, that means he doesn't care about it. No, it just, that's what he feels strongly about. That may be something that he feels is important to establish in a relationship. Now, are you cool with that? If you're not, all right, then maybe this is the situation, or this has just exposed you two are not a good fit for each other. On the other hand, if it's like, okay, cool, I can deal with that, so be it. I just want to give this warning. Do not accept it because you like him so much, but you're actually not comfortable with it. All right. I can't at the moment think of a good example to use. I'm drawing a blank, but whatever it is, like, too many times I see people sacrifice certain needs and desires in order to be with someone, but it's not sustainable in the long run. And therefore, it's going to come back and haunt them and become a huge problem, and everything's going to blow up in your face. So you got to be real with yourself, got to be real with him. But for the most part, his willingness to adjust does express that you are important to him. All right. So let's keep going. And another great sign that I'll tell you that a man views you as very important to him is that he integrates you into his world. And I want to use the word willing to integrate you as well. So let's break this down. Um, though I will acknowledge off the bat that there are men who will introduce you to their family, bring you around all these different people. They will fully integrate you, and the whole time be living a different life and have a girlfriend or has that happened? Yes, right? So is any of these, are any of these things 100% foolproof? No, nothing is, right? But it typically is a very good sign when a man is willing to bring you into his world. Because on the flip side, the man who keeps you completely separate from it, usually that means he's not trying to go too far. Now, I do think this can be tricky because time frames matter, right? Meaning, if you meet a guy tomorrow or you guys have been talking for a few weeks, and even though everything's going great, all right, that doesn't mean he's ready after a few weeks to now bring you around his family and bring you to all the things that he's engaged in, involved with, and all these different things. Some men may move that fast, but not every man will. They might be a little bit more cautious. Does that mean he doesn't view you as important? No, it's just he's not ready yet. I do think that, again, this is one of those things where you got to have discussions. You have to gain an understanding of this guy. I think a good thing to do, if possible, is to try to see if you can gain insight into how he is, how he's been in his previous relationships. Meaning, all right, like, there are some guys who never bring will never bring a woman they're dating around their family unless they know this is the one. Like, this is the one I want to be with. I've accepted this. Now I will. Because to bring anyone sooner is to now open themselves up to questions and pressure and all these different things, and they may not want to deal with that. So gaining an understanding when possible, because you won't always receive that, on how has he been with past relationships. Is this a rule of his where he holds off on introducing, right? But then even with that, be careful, because using the example of integrating you into family and friends, I wouldn't want you to be waiting on the sideline forever because, like, well, he's just not ready yet. But how are you feeling about the situation? And so, no matter how the man feels and how this man moves, you have to start with your base feelings of what's important to you when you think it's sufficient or there's been a sufficient amount of time. And let me not use the word time. There's been a sufficient amount of interaction. The reason why I say interaction, not time, is because if there's a couple, and when I say couple, two people who've been dating for 3 months, but in that 3 months, they've only gone out 5 times. They talk regularly, but they haven't been able to spend a lot of quality time, schedules, all these things. I can't view that the same as another couple who's been dating for 2 months or a month, but has spent consistent time with each other, all kinds of talks on the phone, have dived deep into each other. Like, for them, they've done so much due diligence, so to speak, and experienced so much quality time. It's like, okay, then what are we waiting for to now bring them to the family? If we're doing all this, this should be a natural progression by now. Whereas the first couple, all right, they still need some more time to fill each other out before they want to bring them around other friends and family. So this is where you, as a woman, you have to be real with yourself, right? It's not about just the time. It's about, well, listen, if you've been spending a lot of time with this man, if you guys have been diving deep into each other, if he's already been telling you if he's open to marriage and all these things. Because if he is, like, the man who says, I'm looking to get married, I would think is going to not take as much time to then bring you around family, because he needs to make sure that all flows well and things of that nature. Whereas the man who, of course, isn't looking to go that route, well, he's naturally going to drag it out. He's more likely to drag it out way longer. Either way, going beyond family, because I think we always think about that, like family, friends, but also just like this man's passions, dreams, aspirations, his future plans. At the end of the day, like, if he's not including you or willing to discuss those things with you, then that says to me this man is not trying to get too deep, because he's not trying to have some real serious relationship. But the man who's willing to integrate you in the way that he's telling you his dreams, his aspirations, what's going on with him, what he's working on, all these different things, he's truly opening up to you, essentially, then yes, that shows he values you in the majority of situations. So be on the lookout for that sign. But again, I always gotta give little caveats and what ifs or buts and things like that. Again, when if it's not happening initially, and you feel like, well, man, we've been talking, but I don't know enough about this man outside of when we just hang out. Again, don't just take the fact that he hasn't done it and think, okay, he must not be serious. Let me just cut him off. No, address it. Address it. Because again, some guys, for various reasons, sometimes may be hesitant, scared, whatever the case may be, and a simple conversation can fix it or expose it so that you know which direction you need to move in. All right. So this sign that shows you're important to him is actually, I don't want to say it's a sign. I just want to address this topic, okay? Because I do think in the world that we live in, this is a more common issue that arises. So it's the whole topic of if you're important to him, he'll post you on his social media. Okay? Now, let me say this. And so we're clear, some of you may view this as me being a little biased. I'm not biased. I'm really can look at this as a third party outside looking in, and be objective. But I am someone who's like doesn't believe in the whole posting on social media thing. Forget just partners. If you've been following me for a long time, you'll notice I don't post nothing about my life on there. It could be my birthday. I don't post it. I could accomplish something. I could get an award from you. I remember I had got the gold plaque from YouTube for reaching 1 million subscribers. And I had some homeboys who was like, "What's wrong with you? Why don't you post this stuff? Like, show the world." And I'm like, I just don't like doing. I've never been that way. That's just not me, right? So for me, the whole posting thing, and another big reason why I don't post, respectfully and honestly, the internet has gotten so nasty. I mean, and what I mean by nasty is that there's just people lurking to criticize and attack and scrutinize and every little thing. And that's why, like, again, forget just relationships. I don't post family members. I don't want no one to have to deal with any of that, right? Because of me or through me or whatever, however you want to frame it. So I'm reluctant in that way. But I know that can be a sensitive topic for many people. There are people who feel like, no, you should be able to post your partner, all these different things. I think the reason why I want to discuss this is to say, do not jump to conclusions about posting or not posting. Because let me tell you something. There are people who post their partner and they still doing their dirt. I'm just keeping it real, right? So this isn't posting doesn't automatically mean everything is in the clear. Not posting doesn't automatically mean something bad. I think it's important to discuss it though. And if it is something that's important to you, because there's gonna be some of you who agree, like, yo, don't care about that. We don't need to post each other, anything like that. It's not a problem. There are some of you who feel like, no, that's a red flag. If they don't want to post you, it's a problem. Have that discussion and have that discussion early on to understand what are people's positions on that, why they feel that way. Some of you may come to an understanding, right? Some of you may realize it's a conflict for you guys for various reasons. I think also it's one of those issues where you have to look at the overall picture. Meaning, if you're dealing with a man, let's say you're dating this man, let's say you're in a relationship with him, and he doesn't post you on social media, okay? Chances are, if this man is doing that because he's up to no good, then there's other things that he's doing in the relationship that show you he's up to no good. Like it's very unlikely that this man is just on point with everything, the attention, the time, listening to you, everything. But the one thing he doesn't do is post you on Instagram or post you on social media because he's actually up to no good. That's typically not it, right? So you gotta look at overall. And same thing on the flip side. If he's posting you on the internet, but behind closed doors, he's acting a fool and doing all kinds of nonsense, does the post really mean anything? No, it doesn't. It doesn't hide the fact or make up for the fact that he's still not treating you the way that you need to be treated. So you have to look at the whole picture, right? And make sure things are what they need to be. But yes, everyone has a right to decide for themselves what they feel is important or appropriate when it comes to this specific issue. And again, I just feel like you want to discuss it because I've seen too many people jump to conclusions and it just turned into a whole bunch of unnecessary stuff. And that's aside from uh, behavior on social media. That's a whole different topic because I think most of us can agree. And even with that, there's some people who are going to say, all right, well, I'm cool with if my partner likes a picture. I'm not cool if they're commenting on a picture. Might be some, I think universally everyone agrees to if you slide in the DMs, that's a whole different issue right there. And that's going to be a problem for the majority, if not every last person. But all that to say, because social media is such a significant uh, part of our lives, it's a discussion that should be had as early as possible to minimize any future conflicts. All right, so before we get to this next one, real quick, I want to give you the opportunity to join my special coaching program. In this program, you will have access to me for a whole year where you'll be able to ask your personal questions and get the assistance that you need. You'll also have access to modules that will teach you on how to heal, how to tap into your feminine energy, how to meet more relationship minded men, all right? Men who actually want something serious, and so much more. Take advantage. Go to receivingmyblessings.com. Join today. It has helped thousands of women. I actually just had a comment. Let me mention this. I just had a comment on last week's video of a woman who said she joined the program 2 years ago. She actually met a man, got married, and she just wanted to thank me, and it was so helpful to her. So those stories are always awesome to hear. So again, receivingmyblessings.com. Click the link in the description or in the comment section. Now, another thing that a man does that shows you are very important to him is that he will be willing to make time for you. All right. Now, this is another one of those where we have to add context to this, right? Because a lot of things aren't so black and white. And many of you who've watched previous videos, you've heard me talk about this before, where I know we all say people make time for what they want. True. However, we have to also understand people have different levels of available time to give, right? And different levels of flexibility. And that has to be taken into account. And simply the giving of time has to be looked at within the context of what is even the sacrifice here. One, we're trying to, if we're ever comparing it, not that we should be comparing, but I'm mentioning that because it's like, okay, if you meet one guy and let's just say, unfortunately, he's jobless, all right? He ain't got no job. He's spending his days at home, chilling, playing games, whatever the case may be. Well, this guy has tons of time to give you. He can give you all the attention you want. I hate to say it, kind of reminds me of like a man in jail. Like a man in jail has so much more time to just give. And there's some women who they fall into that attention, that ability for him to give that time or that attention to her. But it's like the situation, we're not gonna get into all that. Anyways, the point is back to the man with no job. He's free to get all this time. All right, now you meet this second guy who's an entrepreneur, running his business, busy, very successful man. This man is going to have a smaller pool of time to pull from. And so sometimes that's going to lead to less availability when you want it, right? So yes, if he's serious about you, he will make time. So he will find a way to carve out time somewhere because he wants to be able to spend time with you, get to know you, whatever the case may be. But there may be moments where you want to see him and he genuinely can't. Does that mean you're not important to him? No. It just means he has a lot going on. And if he's already walking his purpose, that has to be understood and respected and not confused with, well, the jobless man must care about you more because he's giving you all this attention. No, he just has more time to give. Okay. And he might need a place to stay and a car to drive and someone to pay some bills. That's besides the point. The thing is, be careful with that because I have seen women kind of fall into that trap, right? But getting back to the point that he will make time, yes, he will. But again, I think you when you meet a man, these are, I think so much of what we experience in relationships are things that we need to discuss as early as possible rather than trying to just go with the flow and see how it works out, right? So basically, okay, when it comes to time spent, be willing to say, hey, I need to be able to see you this much for us to really grow in this relationship or grow towards something, for me to feel like, all right, you're properly invested in this. And that means that once you present that, if he says to you, okay, I'm the busy guy and I'm not going to be able to do that, you have to be able to ask yourself, okay, am I really willing to accept that and be okay? Or maybe it's just this ain't the time, right? Maybe we can touch base here and there. And then when he becomes more available or when he has created more space and time to have a partner that has the needs that you have, because everyone won't have the same needs, then you guys can move forward. But when we don't discuss it and we just leave it up to chance or whatever the case may be, well, this is where frustration kicks in. This is where misunderstandings kick in. And then sometimes things fall apart in situations that could have been worked out. Okay. Or sometimes we drag things along that should have been cut off a long time ago. And all of that can be solved by having an honest, forthcoming conversation. All right. But yes, when you are important to a man, he is going to try to make time for you within what is available to give. All right. And that is a very, very good sign. All right. So I got a bonus real quick on a beautiful sign. And this one, you may not get to see it, so you can't verify it sometimes, a lot of times, but I just want to bring it up. And that sign that you are very important to him is that he talks to God about you. All right. He prays about you. And that is a beautiful and powerful thing. But like I said, it's not something that you'll always know um, unless he tells you, you know. And of course, we're just taking that man's word if he does say that to you. But I do think it's important that if you are a believer, that um, you at least discuss, like, what does he even have any kind of prayer life? Does he talk to God about anything, right? Um, and and in that, you may be able to find out, like, if not just talking to God about you, but how to navigate the situation. And I think that's a great thing to establish again early on, because listen, when we're in relationships, we're all human beings. We're going to all make mistakes, right? And if we simply are letting our own emotions guide us and our own perception of things, then there's a very good chance we're going to add fuel to the fire. And we're going to pile on additional negative things that can cause the relationship to go in the wrong direction. It happens to tons of people. What would help all of us is to make sure that we not to just pray for the partner, or and when I say not just to pray to receive them, not just to pray for good things for them when they need help, but also praying on how we navigate this, how we approach certain situations, how we talk to each other. You know, even in the moment where we have to have a discussion about something that's bothering us. All right, before you go into that discussion, pray. Ask God to guide you. Ask the Spirit to guide you in that discussion, so that it lessens the chance or eliminates the chance of things going left, right? And if we all keep our focus on how God wants us to handle all these different scenarios and situations, we would all get way better results. And it would also help us discover way faster if we're even dealing with someone we should be dealing with at all. All right. But yes, him praying to God and talking to God about you is a great sign. And ultimately, my prayer is that you will receive the relationship that is truly best for you, and a man who feels you are too important to lose. Thank you for watching this video. I pray it was helpful to you. Be sure to watch this one over here on how to know if God wants you to be with that. When God sends you the one, is be prepared for chaos. Now, let me clarify that. One, I'm focusing this point on, let's just say this person is the one.